The following podcast contains strong language like what the actual fuck.
Scarecrow Festival is like the most important day of the year. Daft cow?
This is just ridiculous. What the actual fuck?
Hey, what the actual fuckers, and welcome to WTAF, a This Country podcast. Now, first, he's the man that's just come back from helping everyone in the village. But that's him. He's a people pleaser. He always wanted people to like him, even at school. It's Neil.
Oh, you see, that's actually quite a polite one for a change.
Really? I thought that was being quite horrible to you.
Oh, really?
You were very needy. You're a very needy person.
No, I'm a people person. I've been out on my bike with the basket on the front doing my errands.
Like Elliot and E.T.
That's exactly like that. Me being the E.T. in the basket.
Okay. Now, lockdown has been a very strange time for everyone. Whether you've been working all through or have been furloughed throughout, it can have strange effects on you and your mental health. Our SuperFan guest this episode is the author of a series of unfortunate stereotypes, naming and shaming mental health stigmas. Please welcome to WTAF, Lucy Nichol, with an L.
Yes, with an L, not two.
Not
That's
two.
clear.
Hello, Lucy. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
We're very good. We're very good. Now, the thing we've had with these lockdown episodes, we've got a few in the bank. So we're recording this in July. This will be going out in August. So as with what's happened with lockdown, things change very, very quickly. But also things seem to stay the same for a lot of people. How has lockdown been for you?
Things have changed very, very quickly for me. So I went into lockdown with a full-time job, was made redundant, started building up my freelance work, and I'm now self-employed. So things have changed a lot. Things that haven't changed a lot are, well, the fact that I still get harassed by my cats, who may well show up as we're talking. People say it's hard to work with children. It's also quite difficult to work with cats. Especially needy ones called Dennis. But it's been a journey. Even though I've been locked down in the house, it's been a journey.
Mm.
Have you actually been stuck? Have you stayed in and been pretty good, or did you go out and have your daily exercise and do all of those sort of things?
Oh, well, we've lived here for like 5 or 6 years or something, and it was only when lockdown hit that we actually discovered we've got the most beautiful woodland walk on the doorstep, literally on the doorstep, like a few meters away. So that is kind of shocking. It's like when you go travel to another country and they know all the places in the UK because they've traveled around it and you've not left like Cherry Burton or wherever. But yeah, so I did get out and about. We were very good following rules, I have to say. I had a few aggressive encounters in Tesco with especially with a man who was not going to follow the rules, and also a couple who got too close for comfort when I was looking at pajamas this was Asda, even if it wasn't lockdown. So yeah, I find supermarkets incredibly stressful, but I've managed to socialize on Zoom and sit in the neighbor's garden in my anorak in the rain with a beer, so it's been good.
And have you been binging TV series?
Yes. Well, obviously it wasn't that long ago that I found This Country, and that was during lockdown, and I found that, and one Sunday, and kind of just went through the whole thing. I watched it twice in a row because I then introduced my other half to it, so there was that. And my agent actually just told me about Big Little Lies, so I've binged 2 seasons of that. Killing Eve, season 3. So yeah, I've watched lots of good telly. There's probably loads more.
The thing is, it's like a lot of people say that there's too much TV and you never get time to watch it. But then it's weird because I have the same thing. There's so many times when I've been at work and I think, somebody's told me that that's a really great series. I must watch that. I must watch that. Now I've had like 14 weeks of sort of doing nothing. I've not watched any of the TV series that I said I was going to sit down. I wish I could break my leg so that I'd have 3 or 4 weeks I could just sit down. I've done that, and I've still not watched the episodes. Is there anything that you, like at the start of lockdown, that you thought I could do that, I could do this, that you haven't sort of got round to doing?
Oh, my word. Yeah, learn the guitar. Like everybody, I'm gonna learn a language, I'm gonna learn an instrument, I'm gonna become an artist. No, I've done gardening, I've killed a few plants and mowed the lawn, but yeah, I've not been one of those sourdough bed breakers or banana loaf makers. I've just, I haven't baked a thing. I've ordered a few takeaways. Maybe I should have had that as an ambition. I've ordered more takeaways than normal, but no, I don't think I've learned any. Oh, there was one thing. We've got bunnies. That's a new thing, because my husband has been working with animals, and they've had to limit how often and how many staff they need. They've almost farmed out some of the animals to individual keepers. So I've had my first rabbit bite. You can't really see it now. It was seriously impressive when it happened. But
wow.
Yeah, daffodil devoured me.
That's a t-shirt if ever I saw it.
So you had the joy of watching This Country for the first time and getting to binge it rather than watch it weekly. What was it that hooked you straight in then, Lucy?
I recognised it. I lived it. I grew up in this village called Cherry Burton in East Yorkshire, and even the name just lends itself to that sort of image, and they reminded me of my friends. I remember that we were the only girls that went to a different school, and a lot of the girls that lived in Cherry Burton, a lot of them kind of liked horse riding, and we didn't hang out with them. We did water fights on the bus with the boys, and it was just the idea, I think, that it's a kind of a cute rebellion, if that makes sense. They're totally harmless, completely harmless, but they're always getting into trouble. And I think that's the thing I loved about it, having water fights and egg fights on buses, or breaking into the church, and or just fun stuff like that. I mean, when we accidentally set fire to the playing fields, that was probably less harmless.
Hang on, how old were you when you accidentally set fire to the playing field?
14, I think.
Okay, I want to do a little bit of a deep dive in this now, because
yeah.
So how did you accidentally try set fire? Did you take things that could set fire to grass with you, or was it a magnifying glass in the sunshine? Was it that kind of thing?
No, it was, so Cherry Burton playing fields, they had this like slide and all these wooden see where this is going.
Yeah.
a lot of wooden stuff built around it, and I remember going up there with my friend Sarah and just hanging out like teenagers do, and chattering away, and playing with matches, not with the intention of setting fire to anything, but just playing with them and putting them out on the wood. There was nothing that would have made us think that was going to set on fire when we left. There was no sign of fire. And then my sister walked the dog the next day and said, I think Dave Scully's been up at the playing fields again. And it just hit me. And the reason she said that is because we remembered getting off the bus and seeing our friend Dave, who sadly passed away a few years ago, but he was always in trouble. And we just remember him running down the road as we got off the school bus, just black, like totally covered in black, because he accidentally set playing fields on fire, but another area. So anyway, I ran out to have a look, and I looked up from the road, right up past, there was a farmer's field, and then there was the playing fields, and the flames were huge.
Oh my goodness.
So I remember thinking, shit. So I went and got Sarah and said, we've set the bloody playing fields on fire. We're like, shit, what are we going to do? So we went to Dave's house because Dave had experience in this. He wasn't very helpful. He just laughed at us and you know, took a piss on it. Well, no, I don't know why I'm doing that. He did take a piss on it, which obviously didn't put it out. And then I had this really like straight-laced boyfriend who came up, saw it, went away and called the fire brigade, which we thought was incredibly irresponsible of him to do as a friend.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fire brigade came and put it out, and we were all hiding in the rapeseed field to stay out of trouble.
Could you not have blamed Dave, and they would have totally believed that it was him, wouldn't they? They would never have thought it was like two angelic 14-year-old girls when there's Dave, probably still singed eyebrows, still got soot behind his ears, and in his fingernails.
Dave was in trouble for everything. He was such a character in the village. He was a couple of years older than us. So we were a bunch of girls that went to one school, and then there were the older lads, so they're all at least 2 years older than us, that we hung around with. And it was that stereotypical thing in a village. You hung out in the bush shelter, and you drank Diamond White in the bush shelter, and you smoked ciggies in the bush shelter, and you maybe sniffed a bit of poppers in the bush shelter. And it was just because I think there was no way of getting out. There were maybe a bus an hour, and you needed a bus fare anyway to get out of the village. And so it was just finding stuff to do. But yeah, the council, I think, didn't like the fact that we would hang out in the bush shelters, and the fact that the older benchies who had this battered Ford Fiesta used to play the Prodigy on full blast, and they'd hang out on the bench. They were older than us. They were a bit rebellious. And the council obviously didn't like it. So it wasn't long before the bush shelter and the bench were removed.
Oh, really?
Village life, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't realise when we booked you to come on the podcast that we were going to be talking to Yorkshire's version of Kerry. I honestly didn't realise that this Pandora's box is now opened, and Yorkshire police are scribbling away, going, right, all of those moments when things were on fire.
I don't know what I'm. The thing
there
is,
must be a statute of limitations on it, so I'm sure you're fine.
I hope so. But the thing is, it was like none of it that was done with malice, and it was accidental. And it was so funny because my sister bumped into an old friend from the village, Phil, who dropped her off at my mum's a few weeks ago, and admitted that he had put the windows through in the pavilion or something. And my sister was like, oh, thank God for that, mother, now you know, because the police had been round knocking on all the doors, and my mum grounded her and took her pocket money off her.
Really?
And sat there going, remember that time? So yeah, but it was all, well, I'd say it was harmless. We weren't like, you know, drug dealing.
No.
We were just having a laugh.
Yeah, it's like you said, with no malice. Did you have people that related to the characters in this country? Did you have like your own Big Mandy and such?
Yeah, there was a girl that I was friends with that I was frightened of, and I remember that I kind of wanted to hang out with her, but I was a bit scared because she was pretty tough. She was bigger than me. She used to get up to all sorts of bother. I'll not incriminate her on here because she's probably a really like straight down the line mum now. But
yeah, you've done enough damage with Dave and Phil, to be perfectly honest. So let's not go for the hat trick.
But yeah, she was good fun. She was my cat.
There you go.
Watch out, Dennis. She was great fun and everything, but I was slightly scared of her. So yeah, I remember I sometimes used to hide from her, not because I didn't like her. Can you tell I'm scared of her now?
Yeah.
Because I don't want her to think I don't like her. She hears this. But yeah, she was probably that character, and I think Dave was probably the curtain of the village. You know, he was the one that always ended up in the paper for setting the playing fields on fire or whatever. And yeah, we do miss him because he, as I say, passed away a few years ago, which is really sad. But what a character, what memories.
Goodness me. But I mean, the difference is that, I mean, you did manage to sort of get out of the village, which is one thing that Kerry and Curtin, I mean, we've said it before, that we think Curtin probably would like to, but Kerry is very happy in that situation, almost like the Truman Show, where there's an actual wall around the village and she doesn't want to go past that wall. Was there a lot of people like that you lived within the village that just was happy where they were?
I think there are a few people who stayed. I think my sister's still in touch with a few people who stayed, but to be honest, we fled the picturesque village of Cherry Burton and moved to Hull when we were 17.
Oh, right.
So you found this whole group of us. There was myself, my sister and her boyfriend. I ended up dating one of the bench lads actually for 5 years, my word. And a lot of those older lads that all moved into Hull. And so we hung out for years and years as a group. And I mean, a lot of them were still getting into bother, but again, it was never malicious or anything. I mean, I remember one of the lads turning up on Christmas Day when we were at my boyfriend's dad's house, turning up on Christmas Day saying he'd just got out of the nick because he'd gone into the wrong house on his way home on Christmas Eve and got into bed. Just like, seriously. But you absolutely know that it was truthful, because this is the same lad who would fall asleep like outside his flat door, you know, and wake up and lose his keys. He was just that kind of person. So you know, he never meant any harm. But the woman who lived there, who was hitting him over the head with the frying pan, I think probably had different ideas. And I think she turned out to be someone's auntie, because that's village life, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
How has that not been in an episode of This Country? That scenario. It just, although saying that, Martin Mucklow has got into a few beds in the village, I'm sure.
Oh, that Martin Mucklow in the pub story makes me cringe still. I can still hear his voice, and it's like, oh, I don't want to know what was going on under that table and in that car park.
But it's weird how we've said it a million times, he's a shithouse, we know he is, but the ladies seem to like him, don't they? The ladies like a bad boy, and he's like the baddest of the bad boys.
Yeah, because he's always got, I can't remember the name. Has he had more than one? Has he had more than one partner in the house?
I don't. Well, you know, he's had obviously Sandra and then Sue, but I mean, he
got back together with Kerry's mum, didn't he, when he was chucked out?
Yeah. But it's I think I don't know whether he's a guy that brags and lies about it, because he's always going on about he's shagging Alan's wife every Thursday and and stuff like that, or whether it's just tall tales. You know, it's like a guy that thinks that he's it and he actually isn't. It's just all stories. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. But yeah, the ladies seem to like a bit of the Big Dipper, don't they? They definitely. They definitely do. So, who's your favourite character then, Lucy?
Oh, how can I pick?
Well, you know.
If we took Kerry and Curtin out of the equation, who would be your favourite supporting character?
Oh, I think maybe Mandy.
Yeah.
I think. I think maybe Mandy. I think Kerry and Curtin obviously are the most adorable, relatable. Well, they're relatable to me and where I grew up anyway. But yeah, I think Mandy's a great character. I think it's the fact that in some ways she seems so vulnerable, like she doesn't seem to know a lot, but my God, you wouldn't bloody mess with her. And I like the way she's protecting Kerry, you know, when she was like staying with her, protecting her, but you know, there's always something else going on there. She's got her own agenda, hasn't she?
Definitely.
Especially when she got that tattoo on her. My God.
I think Kerry was more worried that she was going to end up getting stalked by Mandy the same way that
Yes,
she
'cause
stalked
she
Hannah
had-
Spirit from S
Yeah.
Club 7.
yes, because she had been the stalker, hadn't she?
Yes.
She'd been the stalker herself. Yeah, yeah. But no, I think she's a brilliant character. But it's hard to pick. They all are. That poor vicar.
Mm.
I've never known anyone so patient.
Was your vicar in the village not patient with you guys?
I don't see. I remember the graveyard and I remember the church. I don't remember the vicar. I don't remember the vicar.
Do you remember the
No.
church because you almost accidentally burnt it down?
We didn't accidentally. No, we did used to knock about in the graveyard sometimes. Although that was probably more when I was younger. But yeah, the village hall. The village hall was where I tried my first Newcastle brown ale, sitting outside the village hall. So it was just anywhere where you could perch, wasn't it? Because you didn't want to be in your house. You couldn't really leave the village. So it was anywhere where you could perch, I think, hang.
Yeah.
we weren't very cool.
Yeah. What about series then? We've got the 3 series and the special. Do you have a favourite of them?
Well, the special. I've missed the special.
Oh, how have you not seen? Yeah, the Aftermath. That's between series 2 and series 3.
Oh, have I? I think I have seen that. It's all kind of in one kind of circle for me because I started at the beginning and then watched it again.
Right.
I think the which series is the oven one in with the uncle?
Yeah, that's series
Sorry?
what? Series 1. That one
Series
is, yeah.
1.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the uncle. I absolutely love that. I love everything about that episode because I think as well the way that the mum is voiced by Daisy May Cooper, isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah. So I love the way the mum's shouting down and he's pretended that he's left, and you know how protective he is over the oven and what goes where. My husband's like that. So I'm like watching it going, Jesus. For me, when I cook, the oven goes on 180 and everything just goes in at once, but he has to all goes on the right shells and it's the right temperature and da-da-da. So that reminded me of him, how protective Curtin was over where his pizza went on that oven shelf. So maybe season 1 because they're the ones that really stick out. Obviously the Scarecrow one was the first one, wasn't it? So that was my introduction to this country. And I absolutely adored, again, relating to that. I lived in a village before Cherry Burton called Walkington. And we had the hayride every year. And so it just kind of, there was another episode where they went off to some village or country fete, wasn't there? In a later series. But I just love the idea of that, these like cute little things that go on in villages where you get the Raji kids at, and it's just, I just think it's picture perfect personally.
Right, so we will chat a little bit more about this country, but I want to talk to you about your book. So what made you write a book about mental health and mental health stigmas?
So I have lived with panic attacks and generalized anxiety and health anxiety for many years, going right back to when I was very young. And I've experienced stigma and discrimination. And I went to work for a charity, a housing charity. And as part of my work there in comms, I was speaking to people in our mental health services and asking them to share their story. And as I did that, I kind of thought, well, maybe if I'm going to ask other people to share their story, I should probably share mine. So I wrote a blog, and I remember that it was the first blog I'd ever written, being so nervous. Like, what will people think? Will they think I'm an attention seeker? Am I making all of this up? Like, I was so nervous. And I published it and I stuck it on Facebook, and the amount of direct messages I got from people saying how helpful it was to them because they were experiencing panic and anxiety and struggling to speak about it. So it kind of went from there, and I started doing more blogging, and then I ended up writing a piece for Sarah Millican's Standard Issue magazine, which is described as the no bullshit magazine for women, because it's basically, you know, it's not about losing weight, it's not about, like, you know, what men find attractive, it's not about the best concealer, it's just about life. And so it was a great online publication. It's now a podcast, and I ended up writing a column for that. So I had a fortnightly column where I would interview somebody who was usually a larger than life character, was successful in what they did, but had struggled sort of beneath the surface with a mental health problem. So one of the first ones I did, I interviewed my friend Paul, who is just a fabulous character. He's like always the first person, if there's a, you know, if there's a game show or Big Brother or something, he'll be applying to get on it. He, you know, he dreams of being on Gogglebox. He's such a great character, but he has crippling anxiety. And, you know, when you see him, when you meet him, you wouldn't think, oh, that guy would have that, because he's so, he's quite out there. I mean, you should see the things the videos he's posted, they're hilarious. YouTube of, you know, ridiculous lycra clothing and stuff. He's just such an out there guy, but yeah, he struggles with it. And so I interviewed lots of people. I interviewed comedians, actors, Alistair Campbell, that was a coup, that was great. A coup, that's the wrong word, isn't it? A scoop. That was a scoop. That was a scoop, not a coup. But yeah, so I interviewed lots of people, and then started working with Time to Change as a volunteer, as a media volunteer. And then I realised I was churning so much of this stuff out that there was probably enough to make a book. And I was actually approached by a mental health publisher on Twitter, asking me if I had or was writing a book, and would I submit a proposal to them, which I did, and they published it, and then it came out in February 2018. Ironically, whilst I was severely struggling with anxiety, so it was like the best and the worst of times. But yeah, so it's kind of a because I've always worked in PR and media, it's kind of taking the context of the media and popular culture and looking at my experiences through the years with that. So like I talk about Cherry Burton, there was some supported accommodation in Cherry Burton, I think, for people with learning disabilities. Back in the 90s when we were kids, we used to call it the Nut House, which nothing is anyway, there's no such thing. But first of all, we were referring to mental health problems because we didn't really understand mental illness back then. And secondly, it wasn't that, it was for people with learning disabilities anyway. So I was very conscious of the fact that I'd used stigma and that I was learning and growing. And I think there's something really important to say about intention. And if somebody makes a mistake in some of the language that they use, so we hear a lot of people saying, oh God, I'm OCD, or, you know, like Monica from Friends kind of thing. And that really hurts people who do live with OCD, because it can be absolutely debilitating. But I think there's also something in not attacking that person, but just engaging with that person. So I suppose I was trying to do it in a fun, light-hearted way that might help people think and learn as I have. And I still am, you know, I'm still learning. And, you know, there might be things I've said a couple of years ago that I'm not happy with. I don't know, I'm sure there is. We all make mistakes all the time. But yeah, so it's about exposing those stereotypes and kind of linking them to my journey.
So do you think it's more about education as well? Because I think it's very similar to things like racism, with the way that, and we're not a podcast that gets very heavy and deep into these kind of things, but if you look at what you could say, like when I was at school, to what you can say now, it's the same thing with sort of derogatory remarks about people with mental health issues. I think myself, and I think Neil's quite happy to say, we both suffer from it as well, don't we, Neil?
Oh yes,
yeah, and we have for a few years. And I think it's weird. I just wonder whether you think people's attitudes have got better or changed as the time is going on, or do you think it is just the same as it's always been?
I think that it has definitely got better, but I think there's still stigma. I think I still have self-stigma. I've literally, before, it's great actually, because before I got on this call, I had therapy on the phone, and I was in tears. And it's a new round of therapy, so it was almost like a kind of exploratory session. But I was saying that I have imposter syndrome when it comes to mental health, because everybody's talking about mental health, and then I start thinking my anxiety is kind of, am I making it up? Is it that big a deal? Like, so that I think there's a lot of self-stigma for lots of reasons, but I think because it's really hard to pinpoint mental health problems, they're a collection of experiences. So there's that. But I think the thing that will help more than anything is there are lots of grand gestures, and there are lots of like workplaces saying we support the Time to Change pledge, and we support our colleagues with regard to mental health, and they're great. But I think we need to, as a society, just be more comfortable dropping it into conversation without assuming that somebody is attention seeking. So you wouldn't think twice about going into work and saying you're tired because you've had a bad migraine, but you might think twice about going into work saying I'm knackered, I was up all night having a panic attack. Why? So I think normalizing it is the next thing, and just making it part of conversation. So yeah, we're going the right way, but there's still a way to go.
Yeah. Why do you think there is such stigma towards mental health then?
I think it's really complex actually, and I think obviously if you go right back to the days of Bethlehem Hospital, Bethlehem Hospital, or Bedlam as they called it, nobody understood mental illness, and people could actually pay to go into that hospital and look at patients as if they were freaks. So it's obviously things have got a lot better from then, obviously, but it's been a gradual process, and I think also I think even when you have a really good understanding, there are still things you can't possibly pinpoint. And I remember on Twitter having a bit of an argument or debate with an academic who was telling me there is no scientific evidence to say that antidepressants work. And I was like, but I know they work for me. And so I think even when somebody has so much knowledge and research at their fingertips, because the science around it is quite difficult to evidence in some respects. You can't measure serotonin levels, but that you can, how you feel when you start taking antidepressants, and that it makes you feel more normal. For example, you don't actually feel like you're off your face in a club on E, you feel like normal. So as far as I'm concerned, that's evidence, but I think there's stigma from people who don't know, and stigma from people who are analytical, because it's so kind of invisible, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I assume everybody's anxieties are completely different. Nobody's going to have the same anxieties. They may have the same subjects that they get anxious about, but I'm sure everybody. I mean, I have it since the lockdown, is where I will, before I go to bed or I'm about to go to sleep, just very stupid things go in my mind about members of my family, about them being on the edge of a cliff or something stupid like that. They're not going to be anywhere near a cliff, but for some reason it's the last thing I think about, which then means I can't get to sleep, which then means I start thinking about loads of other things, and it doesn't make any sense. And I think then you start getting anxious because you're thinking of things that doesn't make sense, and it becomes this never-ending cycle. And before you know it, it's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah, I mean, you talk about the things that they are so unique. For me, it was I went through a phase of thinking I'd locked the cats in the washing machine or the dishwasher. Like, they couldn't even get in. They're adult cats, and I've got 3 of them. And I used to have to turn it off because I could not relax. But another one that was very specific to me was buses. And when I was in my 20s, when I lived in Hull, I'd obviously had a panic attack on a double-decker. So I stopped getting on double-deckers and would only get on the minibus, which I had to wait longer for. And then about 4 years ago, I got on the bus and I got it into my head, because I was experiencing quite bad panic attacks at the time. And I got it into my head that the bus was doing this. And I thought the bus was going to topple. And every time I got on the bus from then on, I was absolutely terrified. I had to get the bus home, and I would end up getting off like a few stops early and having to walk and thinking, why the hell is nobody else worried that this bus is going to topple over? And so you say things like, I think, Jesus Christ, was I crazy? It sounds crazy, but it's just anxiety. It's just the way anxiety is manifesting in me. And we all have our own stories, I think, of what we've, like you've said.
Yeah.
Have you found like the media have become better at addressing mental health?
I think mostly. I think that I don't know if you know of Natasha Devon. She's a brilliant mental health campaigner and writer, and she launched something called the Mental Health Media Charter, and basically it's to encourage journalists or PRs or just people in the media to sign up to a kind of a pledge with regards to responsible reporting. And Time to Change gives advice on this, Samaritan's Mind. And yeah, it's definitely got better, but I know Natasha shared and campaigned against stories like, was it the Daily Star on the front page not that long ago said something about snowflake kids getting meditation classes or something, you know, and as if this whole snowflake thing has become part of the conversation, which is totally unfair given the crap that kids have to go through these days, and the fact that they're connected to the news, and they've had Brexit and Donald Trump and Boris Johnson, so it's not an easy world that they're growing up in. So generally it's better. There's a more proactive approach to covering mental health stories and using lived experience, but there's still that sensationalist stuff that happens. You know, if somebody has been accused of murder and then they put schizophrenia in the headline, actually that's really irresponsible, because the majority of people with schizophrenia are very vulnerable people. So you know that it's improving, but there's still that balance, I think, between we want to sell papers, so let's shock, and let's be responsible.
Makes for a good headline, doesn't it? That's the thing. Those kind of words, it always does. Yeah. Well, we will put a link to the to your book in the show notes of the podcast.
Thank you.
It's one of those things that I think people are always going to be fighting against. And I think any way there's something out there to help people or make them realise what it is, it's always a good thing. So, yeah, that's very deep for us for this podcast. We're normally talking about Len's stinking trousers or something.
Oh God!
Well, speaking of Len, there you go. There's somebody with obviously mental health issues in the show.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, how did you feel that they dealt with his? Because obviously he's a hoarder and things.
I think that you don't have to be super serious to discuss mental health problems, and I think you know, showing it with a bit of comedy around it is not a bad thing at all. You know, Fleabag was a great example. There was I can't remember the name of it. Was it called Pure? There was a comedy about OCD, and I think you can. I see my cat. I think you can. I think you can do that. I think as long as you're responsible and you're not laughing at the situation. I can be self-deprecating, and it helps me.
Mm.
Because if I look back, like I always say, my anxiety is like a meerkat, because a therapist once said that to me, and I was like, yeah, always on alert, on the lookout for danger. And it makes me giggle, and it makes me be a bit less hard on myself. So I think as long as it's not taking the mick out of mental health, I think mental health in the, you know, in a humorous context is absolutely fine. Why not? It helps us listen, it helps us learn. And I do work with Mind, and particularly Coronation Street, on script advice. And you know, you'll see examples in scripts where there might be a character who's a bit of a pain in the arse character, who says something that is very much, you know, stigmatizing. But the point is that does happen in everyday life, and that kind of character would be the one to say it. So as long as it's challenged by a nice character who we all love, then yes, you know, because that's life.
Exactly. So how did you feel then when you saw the scene where Big Mandy has a collection of meerkat.com?
Oh God, yes, she did.
With the face as you use a meerkat.
I would love them. So I've got on my on my 40th birthday, I asked my husband if I could have a meerkat experience, and don't worry, it's not some bizarre bedroom thing where he does it. Not at all.
And you know that all of our audience, that's exactly what they were thinking then.
But I actually went to meet the meerkats. I did this whole meerkat experience where I could go and feed the meerkats live insects. That's a bit weird. Oh my God, and I absolutely loved them. Although on the way there, and this is someone who has anxiety and lots of self-doubt and stuff, on the way there, I said to my husband, what if they don't like me? And he just said, oh, for God's sake, that is so typical of you. Like, you're worried the meerkats aren't going to like you. Luckily they did. One of them bit his bum, so
oh right,
that was amusing when he was bent down feeding them. But
and you're telling me that isn't a bedroom thing? Come on.
Not a bedroom thing. Although I do have a little meerkat in my bedroom and one on my keyring.
Right.
I love those meerkats though off the adverts.
Yeah.
I think they're fabulous.
Baby Oleg. Yeah. I'm a smoke-free home. Right, before we carry on, we're going to have a little bit of a game now. We're going to play Kerry or Curtain. I'm going to give you a line of dialogue. You need to tell me if it was Kerry or Curtain that said it, okay?
Oh, God, okay.
So here we go. We've got 5 of them all together. Here's number 1. Do your impression of Farmer Jenkins finding out about his dead wife. Was that Kerry or Curtain that said that?
Oh, God, I don't know that one. I'm going to go Curtain.
It was Kerry.
Oh.
That was the driving lesson episode.
Oh.
So we got, that's number 1. So 0 for 1 so far. Number 2. Look at him. He's waddling like he shat himself.
Curtain.
That was Kerry again.
No way.
That was seeing slugs walking down running down the street in the Mandy episode.
Season 1, wasn't it?
That was. I'm
just trying to redeem myself.
You don't get extra points for that, I'm afraid. Number 3. It's my pitch. The pitch I booked 3 months ago with Mrs. Wicks.
That is Curtain.
That is Curtain. Well done, the Scarecrow.
That's the Scarecrow, yeah.
Yes. Number 4. It's a bit annoying, actually. This is not the first or second time I've had to tell you, really, is it?
Oh.
It's a bit annoying, actually. This is not the first or second time I've had to tell you, really, is it?
I don't know this one. I'm going Curtain.
It was Curtain.
Hey.
That's Family Loyalties, when the vicar is talking to the camera crew in the bowls club with his shoes on. And,
yes.
Curtain has a go at him for it.
He's got a job there.
That's right. So that's 2 out of 4. You've done really well so far. So here we go with the last one. Pop open the boot, will you?
Is that all you're giving me?
That's all I'm giving you. Pop open the boot, will you? Is that Kerry or Curtain?
Is this the driving lesson one? Is this when they were on the field and Kerry was fallen over? No. Oh, I'm just going to go Curtain.
It was Kerry.
Damn it.
That's Kerry. That's Kerry at the tip when she's in the first episode of series 3, when she's got a box full of goodies that she's stolen from the tip to get Griff to put it in at the back of his car. Pop open the door. But 2 out of 5. That's not bad. You had a bad
Still
start,
respectable.
bad start, and a good middle, and then missed the last one. But that's good. 2 out of 5. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. So there's not rumors now. It is actual that they're going to make an American version of this country. Have you not? Oh, there you go. Look by that look there. You didn't know that?
No.
No. Well, they're making a pilot, which obviously has been curtailed a little bit because of the coronavirus and stuff. What are your What are your initial thoughts then? Because obviously you hadn't heard that bombshell.
Oh, I don't want them to.
No.
I think that's probably great for the writers and everybody involved. I don't know who gets the cash for that, and that's brilliant. But why can't they just watch our brilliant version? That's what I don't get. Like The Office, our version was fabulous. Why can't I'd want them to enjoy our one. I think in the Cotswolds, it's so English and perfect, and see, I'm struggling a bit with this.
Well, it's got good pedigree behind it. We will give it that.
Has it?
Yeah, I mean, it's Paul Feig, the guy that did. Help me out.
Freaks and Geeks. He has written The Office. He's done Bridesmaids was the movie that he directed.
That's the one I was thinking of.
So he has got a good pedigree, and also it's being written as well by I can't remember her name. I'm terribly sorry. She follows us on Twitter as well, but she wrote Sex and the City, and she also wrote The Greatest Showman. So there is good pedigree. There, I mean, obviously we're not going to know anything if it doesn't get picked up from the pilot. Then I'm sure we probably won't even get to see the pilot. But it's going to be intriguing. I think the Americans haven't got a good strike rate. That has to be said for British comedies. But I think that when they do get it right, they do a pretty good job. But
yeah,
you're not alone in your reaction there. I think a lot of people are thinking, can't they just make more of the British one and
exactly,
and leave?
Can't we send Kerry and Curtin off to New York or something?
I mean,
see what happens.
To be honest, I think it fries their brain when they go to Gloucester. What they would be like if they went to New York. I honestly don't know how they would take it. I don't think they would be able to talk.
Yeah,
I really don't. I think their brain just would not be able to compute things like Times Square. It'd be like being living on another planet.
Oh, I'd love to see that, though.
It would be fun, I think. It would be fun.
Saying that, Lucy, where do you think Kerry and Curtin would be in like 10 years' time?
Oh. I think Curtin will be working in he'll have done an apprenticeship or something, and I think he'd be working in IT for local government.
Right.
And I think I'd quite like to see Kerry's pet sitting business take off, actually, and see her become a good standing local businesswoman, but obviously not allow any hamsters or rabbits to die in her care. So I'd like to think maybe Kerry could do some college courses on animal care and launch her pet sitting business properly. Yeah.
I think she could do pet sitting stroke pet burial as a double thing. She's edging a bet, so if things go bad, she's got a way of making a bit of money if it goes bad. But if it goes good,
that's a very good idea. I was talking about pet burial recently because I was remembering, because we buried the wrong cat in Cherry Burton once.
What, as in one that hadn't died, or?
It had died.
Oh, right, thank God for that. Oh, right.
But we buried...
It wasn't accidentally set on fire, was it? Please tell me.
No animals were harmed in the accidental arson. Accidental,
please.
But yeah, that I'll never forget that. My dad burying this cat. In fact, this belonged to a lad from the village, and my sister only told him about 2 years ago, and he didn't take it well.
Really?
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So what did he think had happened to his cat?
Well, I think he maybe just thought that it had found some other owner that was feeding it go-cat or something, but in actual fact, it was dead at the bottom of our garden. Yeah, she said, even though he's like 42 now, and this was back when we were like 15 or something, she said it was New Year's Eve as well. She totally spoilt the night for him.
Oh my goodness. You can't come back from that. What a bombshell that is on New Year's Eve.
I know. But then again, my sister's taken the blame for putting a window through at the local pavilion for many years. So
that's true.
These things eventually come out.
Indeed. Yes. Oh dear, what a roller coaster that's been. It's been like hearing confessionals for the last sort of 40 minutes or so. So what are you working on at the moment? Is there things that you can tell us that you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, I'm writing fiction, and I'm absolutely loving it. I'm writing humorous fiction. It's always got a mental health kind of message, I suppose, but it's first and foremost fun, I think. And so the first one I've written, I'll not give too much away because it's on submission with editors at the minute, but it's set in Hull in the 90s, and it's about two friends, Emma and Dave. They're not like Kerry and Curtin. But yeah, so there's so that's got quite a bit about like punk rock music and the 90s and Hull, and family and relationships. And then I've written another, which is in first draft, also set in Hull in the 80s. I love setting them in the 80s or 90s because then you can have fun with all the nostalgia and the crap music and stuff, or the good music as well. The crap clothes and crap hairstyles. And I'm writing one now, which I'm like 4,000 words in, so we'll see how that goes. I'm currently doing the research on it.
Nice.
So, yeah, exciting.
Well, keeping yourself busy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Lucy, thank you very much for spending some time with us. It's been a real pleasure. It's been loads of fun.
It's been great. I've enjoyed it.
And if the Yorkshire Police do start emailing us, we know nothing. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, thank you. I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's probably, if I just keep giving out my surname without 2 L.
Exactly.
Without an
yes.
L.
Without an L, yes. So it's just Nichol. That's fine. That'll be fine. We'll sort that out.
Although if you could use Smith, that would be
even better. Yeah. So thank you, Neil. Do you want to do your little bits and pieces?
Absolutely. You can find us on all the social media sites under WTAF-TC Pod. Come and give us a follow on any of those, please do. You can email us at WTAFthiscountry@hotmail.com, unless that's changed now.
No, that's fine.
That's still the same. And WTAFpodcast.com is the home of our website where you can find everything like tickets for our last live show.
Indeed. And the last live show now that has been moved to May 28th, 2021, because of all the gubbins that's been going on. You can buy us a coffee if you want to support the podcast. Go to ko-fi.com/WTAF-TC pod, or come and be a Patreon bozo at patreon.com/WTAF, and helps us support the podcast and keeps us going and keeps us doing it for free. That's it. Thank you very much again, Lucy.
Thanks for having me. It's been good fun.
Thank you very much, Neil.
Thank you very much, Pavo.
Thank you very much, everybody else, and go and get plumbed, you fuckers.
Scarecrow Festival is like the most important day of the year. What? Daft cow?
This is just ridiculous. What the actual fuck?